Hello, heroes and Zargons. I'm Alfred, and this is the Trials and Tribulations of Zargon, a series which details the many ways in which the Emperor's heroes foil Zargon and his minions in their plots to conquer the Empire. In it, we'll review the published quests and any house rules or modifications I'm using to make the game more interesting and challenging. On this episode, we'll cover Quest 10, Castle of Mystery. Our campaign diverged slightly from the original quest sequence at this point. I accidentally skipped Prince Magnus's gold, so we played that after the Legacy of the Orc Warlord. Then, I told the heroes that while there was Wardaz, the Lost Wizard, to be found, there was also a great treasure available at the Castle of Mystery. My hero took the bait. We'll do this one slightly differently. I'll give a rundown of the structure of the quest, then Matt will give his perspective on what happened and thoughts on design. First, Mentor's text. Long ago, a wizard named Alar discovered the entrance to a gold mine. Using his great powers, he built a magic castle above the mine to protect it. The lower chamber of the castle has many magical doors and is guarded by a host of monsters who were trapped in time. Can you find the entrance to the gold mine? Others have tried, but the castle thwarted them every time. This quest begins in the lower left-hand quadrant, but from there, room placement doesn't matter because the doors are portals and heroes determine randomly what room they enter. A 2 or a 12 spits them back out at the stairs. A 3 or a 4 spits them out in the northwest quadrant to face either zombies and skeletons or orcs. A 5 or a 6 lands them in the southwest quadrant, facing either a chaos warrior or a mummy. A 7, the most common result, lands them in the central chamber to face 4 goblins. An 8 drops them at the entrance to the mine, where the hero can collect the full 5,000 gold, but then must make it back to the stairs without attacking or defending. That gold disappears when the hero reaches the stairs. A 9 or a 10 lands the hero in the southeast quadrant, facing either a lot of undead or 2 chaos warriors, and an 11 leads to the orcs in the northeast quadrant. I forgot that a hero can only transport once per turn, so that may have cheapened the experience, but I'll leave that for Matt to say.
Quest 10, the Castle of Mystery. I hate this quest. We've discussed in previous episodes some of the inherent unfairness towards the heroes in HeroQuest. Things like traps directly through doorways that can't be searched for or avoided, trapped treasure chests that turn out to be empty, and weapon racks full of useless, rusted items. And how, while annoying, these things do add to the charm of the game. This quest, however, ratchets the unfairness up a few notches, and as the hero player, I can't help but take it personally. It's unfortunate, too, because I feel that the idea behind the warp door mechanic is interesting. It just suffers from being used in a quest with no other redeeming features. I'd like to discuss my thoughts about our playthrough of this quest from 2 different perspectives. First, I'll run through the quest as written, or as close to as written as we were able to come, and then I'll talk about how some of our house rules impacted my experience. If you absolutely love this quest and feel that I'm being too harsh, perhaps it's just the effect that our house rules are having on the campaign as a whole, and this quest in particular, that are coloring my opinion. Despite both owning this game for over 3 decades, neither David nor I could ever recall playing through this quest. We were both aware of it, though, and were excited to give it a try. Starting in the room in the lower left corner of the game board, I moved my barbarian first, and quickly realized that this quest was going to force me to break one of the cardinal rules of questing: don't split up the party. And not only that, but it was going to make it extremely difficult to get my party back together for any significant portion of the dungeon. This is dangerous for all the heroes, but especially for the wizard, who is woefully underpowered and under-equipped compared to the other heroes. I have no problem whatsoever having my wizard pass his turns when there is imminent danger. A running joke throughout our campaign is the phrase, "and the wizard stays where he is," for whenever I'm completing a round in which the barbarian, dwarf, and elf have all moved and acted. Usually the wizard does eventually find safe ways to assist the party in searching and battling, but in this quest there was no way I was going to roll the dice, literally, and risk marooning the wizard in a room with multiple strong enemies. My wizard spent this entire quest in the first room. I can only imagine playing with a group of heroes, especially children as the game was originally designed for, and having the wizard player get frustrated just waiting around, and eventually send the wizard charging headlong through the warp door, only to be met by 2 chaos warriors and a quick death. Even for the barbarian, taking on the 2 chaos warriors in room 10 alone is a very dangerous proposition. My dwarf was the first and only hero to reach room 8, which contains the entrance to the mine. When searching for treasure, he found 5,000 gold coins, but was told by Zargon that while carrying the gold, he would be unable to attack or defend. Obviously, he was much more likely to encounter monsters in another room than to escape back to the stairs with a roll of 2 or 12 through the warp door. When questioned, Zargon said that theoretically, the dwarf could put down the gold when facing monsters and pick it up again after the battle. Of course, when I tried this, Zargon said that the gold immediately disappeared back into the mine. I can only imagine David's glee, since he takes his responsibility as Zargon to hinder and harm the heroes as much as he can, very seriously. At this point, I wasn't interested in trying to intentionally make my way back to the mine, partly because it requires a random dice roll to get there, partly because if I did make it back to the mine, I'd be faced with the same dilemma of carrying the gold, and partly because I correctly assumed that there would be more trickery involved with the gold. And, just to state for the record, yes, I did know about this quest before we began, and I'm sure at some point I read through the quest booklet and learned that the gold disappears. That was a long time ago, though, and I have been trying to avoid spoilers as much as I can, so I didn't remember exactly what was going to happen. But, as soon as the gold disappeared, I realized there was no way the game was going to let me get 5,000 gold pieces from one dungeon. I suppose I should talk about the mistake we made at this point. The quest notes specify that a hero can only go through one door per turn. We did not purposely disregard this rule, but I'm glad that we didn't realize it existed. The way we played it, I would roll movement for a hero, and then use one movement point to step through a warp door, and use another movement to step back through if I didn't like the room I was in. So, for example, if I rolled a 7 for a hero's movement, that hero could potentially take 7 warp doors. I didn't always use the full movement of each hero because, as the movement number dwindled, I didn't want a hero to get stuck in a bad room. I was only interested in getting my heroes back to the staircase. Our forgetting about the one warp per turn rule, and my impatience with fighting the RNG of dice rolls for no treasure reward, were probably both influenced by the amount of alcohol we had consumed. Perhaps we'll make a future video about what drinks pair well with HeroQuest. Anyway, I eventually got my barbarian, dwarf, and elf safely back to the staircase, where they reconnected with the cowardly wizard and left the dungeon. I found out afterward that I had missed the only real treasure, an artifact called the Ring of Return. This artifact is one of 2 single-use item artifacts in the game, the other being the Elixir of Life found in Quest 9. Artifacts are meant to be powerful items that can help you on your quest. Single-use artifacts, in my opinion, just don't seem to be as useful as an artifact should be. Compare these 2 artifacts to all the others in the game, which are strong pieces of equipment that will help you throughout multiple quests, and it becomes obvious how underpowered these single-use artifacts are. So I really didn't mind too much that I had missed the Ring of Return. I also find it ironic that the artifact which can teleport heroes back to the start of the dungeon is found in the hardest dungeon to get out of, which seems helpful at first. However, it only works on heroes that the wearer can see, so it would be especially useless in the dungeon that keeps the heroes split up. Of course, with a little finessing, you could get the heroes together in one room, room 7 having the highest probability, and then use the ring. Now, why does this quest annoy me so much? The answer has to do with our house rule regarding the hero leveling system. We'll go into this system much more in depth in other videos, but suffice it to say that the leveling system we've introduced incentivizes me to keep my heroes alive and to earn as much gold as possible. For every 3 quests that one of my heroes successfully completes, I may purchase a level in the form of a random homebrewed skill or ability for that hero. There are 10 levels for each hero, and the price scales up, starting at 500 gold for the first level, then 600 gold for the second level, 700 gold for the next, and so on. With 4 base game heroes to level, not to mention other heroes from expansion quest packs, this can get very expensive. 5,000 gold might be enough to almost fully equip all 4 heroes from the armory, but it would only be about 13% of the 38,000 gold needed to fully level all 4 heroes, which is my eventual goal despite Dave's insistence that he intended for heroes to die, and new heroes to be created with different builds. Even still, the 5,000 gold would have been welcome in a game where large amounts of gold can be very scarce. Aside from losing out on 5,000 gold pieces, my heroes faced a level of potential danger in this quest that is frankly unacceptable. I need my heroes to survive dungeons in order to make them eligible to purchase levels. This is one of the main reasons I'm hesitant to send my wizard into danger. If we were playing the game under the original rules and one of my heroes died, I would just create an identical hero for the next quest. With our leveling system, not only would I lose a more powerful character, but the replacement would also be ineligible to purchase any levels until they completed at least 3 quests. The further along one of my heroes gets, the steeper the penalty for death. Ultimately, if the hero's reward for completing a quest is not commensurate with the level of danger faced in that quest, it diminishes the feeling of accomplishment and makes the whole thing a waste of time. This quest put my heroes in exceptional amounts of danger for no reward. I was happy to put it behind me.
Please do that YouTube thing and like and subscribe. Then I'd love to hear what rules bring Zargon victory in your campaigns. Let's plot together in the comments below.